started whenever you are ready. Thank you so much for joining.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I wish I could see your smiling faces, but I can see the background. It looks really nice. Well, I'm not too far from you. I'm actually in Mountain View. So I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I hope I can be helpful. We have until 11:55, right? Okay. Great. So I'm Elle Rustique. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called TipBrightly. TipBrightly is a mobile payments app. It's part of a platform actually that enables cashless tipping. So it's kind of like Venmo, but it does a lot more. And we're working with hotels and the hospitality industry. And our mission isn't just about making tipping easier. It's actually about helping tipped service workers who rely on cash to recover those tips. And right now it's so important because it's an increasingly cashless society. And, you know, as COVID, it's a contactless world. And 50% of people don't want to touch cash. 8 in 10 people don't carry less than 20. So the impact of this actually is really disproportionate for workers who are, you know, be paid in cash and are an hourly wage. So that's the background on the company. The reason I started it, I'll get to, but my background is I'm actually I was trained as a teacher. I taught high school for several years in New York City. That was way back when. So I love to be able to tell a story experience in a way that I hope makes an impact and helps you think about what you're doing. And I understand from your goals that, you know, you want to be able to think about your project for the Impactathon, right? And that you're looking at trying to understand what the problem is that you're wanting to solve, the solution that you're thinking about, and other parts of being able to bring your solution, you know, into the real world. So hopefully my story is going to help you think about that. So like I was saying, my career is in teaching and in education. And before I did this, which was many years ago, you're probably in middle school when I started this, I was at Stanford. And I was in education. I'm still in education. I think about it as being part of my life. And I was working on issues of access and opportunity and trying to improve schools. So this is very much part of my DNA, is wanting to solve social problems. So you may have something in your DNA, your founder DNA, that's makes you, you know, you who you are and really motivates you. So that's one thing to start thinking about, is like, what is it that motivates you? What gets you out of bed? What makes you feel proud? Because you need to tap into that when you do something like this, a social impact endeavor, whether it's a company or a campaign. It has something that has to drive you. So I left Stanford and to start this company. So why? Well, for me, it was because I had this experience, and it starts with actually my childhood. My mother was a hotel housekeeper. And, you know, growing up, I always knew what it felt like when she would earn tips, because she would take my brother, my sister, and I out for a treat. And that money, those earnings for women really matter, because women tend to spend their money on their home, their family, groceries. And so when women's earnings go down, they have less to spend. And so what happened for me was that I was traveling a lot, and, you know, because of my upbringing, I'm a big tipper. I love to, you know, it's important to me to leave big tips. And I started having this problem, which is I couldn't tip. And the reason why is because I didn't have cash. Like, I increasingly did not have cash. So I'd be in a hotel room, or, you know, I'd be like with the valet, and didn't have cash to tip. And I just started, this really started bothering me, again, because it was personal. But then as I thought about it, it really kind of made me frustrated, because, you know, the technology is there, right? We all know about Venmo and PayPal. We can send money and transfer money and do all kinds of things with money on our mobile phone. But here, I couldn't even just leave this simple tip. And it meant to me, the way I saw this was that the technology wasn't being applied to a problem that, was sort of hidden and not that important, and those are the people who are underbanked, underserved. And, yet, if we had the technology and applied it to this problem, it would really help them in such an important way, like my mom, small things mattered in a big way. And so that's what I set out to do, was to figure out a way to use the existing mobile payments technology and apply it in a hospitality setting, specifically hotels. So then, and that's really what I've been doing. I want to save some time, Natal, for people to ask, for the students to ask questions. So that was the journey. And, there's sort of three parts that I kind of want to talk about, go back into depth about, the problem that you're working with and trying to solve, and how to think about that. And then I'll go into like the solution, because it makes it sound like I just figured these out 1, 2, 3, 4, but no, it was 4 years of figuring out something that seems, kind of simple, but it's really hard. So let me start with the problem. And hey, Natal, are you there? Did she walk away? I'm sort of not used to just like talking nonstop. This is not like, so I kind of want to stop and have, the students sort of have any questions about what the story is. Yeah, because, okay, go ahead.
Mic around.
Yeah, you got to shout it out.
Okay, so you talked about like how your whole thing with the tips, right? And being on like electronic. So like with Apple Pay and like tipping through that, what differentiates your solution versus like Apple Pay and tipping through a card reader?
Okay, so let me get to that. That's a great question. Okay, let me hold that. So differentiating your solution from other ones. Okay, I've got that down. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to get to that when I start talking about this. All right. So one of the things about your problem that you're trying to solve is, another question?
Yeah. There's one more question.
Okay, sure.
So you on the I think you talked about how you make profit. How do you make the profit from your app? Like, where does the profit come from?
Okay, great. So this is, how do you make a sustainable profit on an app with this, right? How do you make it a business? Okay, so we got differentiators and how do you make this a business? Okay. Anyone else?
When we were looking at the website, it was explaining that like hotels and restaurants and stuff can have like a QR code set up. So how do they set that up, and like how do you get in contact with businesses for them to do?
Apple Pay profit. Okay, I didn't hear that. Natal, can you say that to me, and then I'll go ahead and carry on.
How do you give them the QR code? Is that the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like distribute the QR code?
Okay, I'm trying to debate whether I should show my deck at this point or just keep
one
talking.
More question.
Yeah. Okay.
There's one more question.
Sure.
I'm kind of sorry about that.
Okay.
But my question's a pretty basic question, but I'm just wondering how long it took, like start to finish,
Oh, okay, time. Okay. All right, so let me try to time this. Okay, so it's 12:40. You got time. We have about 10 minutes. So I think I'm going to do two things, guys. I'm going to show you my deck. Actually, I pitched it this morning to a hospitality group that wants to implement it in 3 hotels. I'm happy to share the whole thing with you or with Natal later, but I'll buzz through it and show you some of these slides that will help you see how we make a profit. And then also Apple Pay. So I think that's the best way to do it. And then I can go back. All right, so can I share the screen? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I did this morning with my team. Okay, so I'm pitching this to a customer, all right? So this is the opening slide. I told them a little bit about who we are and what our mission is and what our solution is and who we're helping, which you have. It started off with this question. So how do you, that they understand their pain point? So their guests want to leave a tip, you don't have the cash. You start off with something that's the empathy, right? What does this feel like? So they tap into that. Then I gave them some statistics about cashlessness. Okay, so I gave them some data. And then explain to them what's the problem here. So sometimes this is very important for you guys, is that when you think of your problem, make sure you really define it. Define it in so many ways. So for example, like there's a problem, people are throwing their trash out on the streets. And so the solution is, let's find them. Well, it turns out that's not the problem. The problem is that there weren't trash bins, or they're putting on the wrong day. So you really have to think about the problem. So with tips that are going down, right, what is the problem here? Is it that people are being like, not as generous? And so the pain point is that cashlessness. To identify that. And so what is the impact of the cashlessness? It then affects employee morale. That morale then leads to lower, service quality. Now they've got the negative reviews. You can imagine these GMs are really not liking that. And then, turning into hiring shortages. So if you got your employees feeling demoralized, they're going to leave. They're already underpaid. So now they have this bigger problem, on the bottom line. So that's how you sell it. You sell it like who is really hurting because of this problem. You don't sell it to your employees, and say, well, you pay for this. You don't sell it to the tippers. And that's the thing that takes a long time to the student who asked that, is that sometimes founders they're not sure who's going to buy this and who they're solving it for. So that's what you want to think about. So after that, I said, okay, here's our solution, right? We start with a QR code. We generate for the hotels the QR code for their employees. Each QR code is linked to an employee. Okay, we explained that to them and said, when you scan the QR code, which you guys probably did on our website, then I walk them through the process. They can see, who they tip, and versus the Apple Pay, and the point about the Apple and Google Pay, we're not taking them head on. We're actually integrating them into the platform. So, if you had Apple Pay for tipping, it's like a transaction, it's e-commerce, but Apple Pay integrated into our platform means that it's an option to send a tip. So they're not like going to eat us. I mean, I suppose if they wanted to get into tipping, but that's a whole other, I think, series, next workshop. So then there's the feedback that they're sent, and then explain that to them. So I then summarize it. Hey, it's fast, it's secure, it's convenient, it's customized for you. It's not like Venmo, it's versatile. So you summarize the value. This is another way of doing it. Actually, I should have taken the yellow box out for the demo. Okay, so then I explain, now it's not just about tipping, okay? It's about the whole ecosystem of tipping. It's helping the guest, it's helping the employee, it's helping you. It's a win-win-win. So now we're not, okay, and then I explain the transaction fees. I'm gonna skip over that because they don't wanna know that. They wanna know how the tips are gonna be paid out. So we have 3 models, we skip over that. And they wanna know what each QR code, what employee receives. So they get their QR code, they have their own branding, they get to see a dashboard for tracking their tips, which is really hard with cash. And then they get to know when they get a tip and that. So you laid out the features for the employee. And then I go into, hey, the feedback is not just like your 5-star, 4-star Uber rating. It's actually very specific. It gives them the rating, but then the guest can talk about what exactly did they like? What did they feel? So this is data that has never been seen before because it's happening in real time. So now they're like, okay, we really want this data. Okay, so then I give them another example, like show them an actual employee who received the tip and the feedback. And, then I show them how we set this up. I explain, it's very important for me to show the transparency. I said, look, this is why it's customized. You can make this the way you want it to look. So I show them that, then here's the dashboard so they can see how that works. And then explain that they can download the transactions. So you guys can already starting to see that this is not just an app, right? It's a system, an HR program for appreciation. Then here's how the guests see this. So I show them, this is what it looks like in your hotel. Here's how you explain it. Here's how it can look. Here are the ways that it used to be in other hotels, so we could build off this. This is a Hyatt sign. This was the Marriott envelope that they used to use. I show them examples of our customers. I show how easy it is to brand it. So you take the same message and you create it into this new format. And it's more education, right? So this is a change in behavior for everybody, the tipper, the employer, them. So it's important that they get comfortable with talking about it. So more of that, I tell them that this is how you can expand it. You can use the valets at your thing. And then I walk them through the process. You have this design meeting, which we're doing now. So they feel, oh, okay, we're participating in this. We're kind of already in it. Then I just tell them the process. They create the employee QR codes, the signage, blah, blah, blah. Then I told them, well, here's what you need to succeed. Okay, so this is a psychology thing. I said, you have to have leadership, you have to have buy-in, you have to have guest education, you have to have signage mindset. So everyone wants to succeed, right? So they're like, okay, yeah, we want to have this. And it is actually true, right? So if they don't have employee buy-in, they're starting to think about it. Here are testimonials, and then, all of our awards. And then here is the pricing. So the pricing is how we make money. This is how we make money for the student who asked. So we have a one-time setup fee. It's a consultation, and that covers the cost of the time and talking with them, the Zoom meetings, etc. Then there's a monthly subscription, so it's price per employee, and then there's a transaction fee. So we have these three streams of revenue, and the transaction fee is 3%, and then Stripe has their own. And so that's kind of how it works. And then we end there, and then I talk about, well, okay, is this going to work for you? Does this pricing sound like, it's going to work? And so I get two answers. One is like, well, can you send this to us because they need another decision maker, or someone's in the room who already knows the budget, and they'll say, yeah, that works for us. So that, good, I have 5 minutes. So that is the whole pitch. I think that probably answered, the 1, 2, 3 questions, the timeline. So I started this, thinking about this in 2015. I had a prototype in 2017. I was working part-time, by the way. And then, there are things that happen with the technology. So there are, a lot of experimentation. So there's NFC, the chips, the Bluetooth, the QR code. So I was a believer in the QR code long before the pandemic. I just thought it was very flexible. And so there's a lot of testing. We started off with a mobile app, and no one would download it. So you do testing. It's like, okay, no one's going to download an app in the middle of like traveling. We did the QR code at the time it needed a barcode reader, and no one knew what the hell what these things are. Sorry. And then, then there's some changes in technology. So we did the QR code, or the reader was integrated into the camera. And then, who would have thought with COVID? So all of that time, it's taken that many years. It's hard to understand. It's put your mind around, and you're, it's working, but you're not only just building the product, but you're trying to sell it. You're doing some piloting, and you're building your team, and I think that in retrospect, I'm actually in the middle of this still. So there's figuring out the problem and what you're going to do with it. Then there's building the solution, okay? And then you have to get it into the market, and then you have to make sure people are buying it. So if there's no market, no one want to buy it, then you're sort of like go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, how do we get people to buy this thing? And then, when you start to get what they call traction, you have customers, they're paying, there's revenue, there's transactions. Like we've had over 100,000 transactions. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot because of this particular thing. We have, 10,000 tippers. So there's a sign there. And now investors will come in because one, they see a huge opportunity. So there's a different slide that I have that's for the investors, a deck for the investors. So you think, let me see, this is actually our WeFunder. So we're on WeFunder right now. I'm not supposed to say a huge announcement like go to WeFunder, but if you want to see our deck and see how it's done, I'm actually showing it to you. So this is the story. So it's aimed more at the public like interface, right? So I say same thing, but I'm kind of spinning it. And then, how it works, right? Okay, let me get to okay, so here's the slide that I don't show to customers, but it is the slide for investors. They want to know, is there there? I mean, is this like, how is a little tip going to be an investment for me and give me money, 100x? So you have to show them that this is a huge market, right? That it's not just tipping in hotels. Let me go back to that. It's tipping, in personal care, leisure, transportation, that, there were this many tips that were processed, billions and billions, that this is a hotel sector, but there's a global market. So you kind of want to blow it up, right? And it's true, but your focus is like, I'm going to try and capture that sector. Okay, this mirrors that. And, here's how I show my traction. So I'm not showing this to customers. They don't really need to see that. And then here's our growth plan. So, it's much more detailed, but you want to kind of show that you're on some plan that's going to get you to 10x or, to your revenue, like 10 times where you are now. And, in this one, it's just like we're hiring. We're going to clear our sales pipeline because we have 100 hotels and I'm not enough team to get them out. We're going to build awareness so people know about, this problem. And then we're going to work on our product and build some APIs. And then, here are the number of hotels and here's how we're going to do it. And so made it really simple for the investors. You'll see some things here that I use in the sales deck. And then, they want to see my team. I think salespeople want to show the team too, but this team is very important for investors. And then there's a sort of call to action at the end. So I think it's 11:55. I hope that I got all the questions and that you feel like you've got a good picture of, a problem, the solution, and where it is right now. And if you feel like really motivated or inspired by the story and the product, you can go to WeFunder and see how it's laid out, and that it is you can see how people are investing, and encourage you to go to WeFunder actually and see some of those different ideas, because you'll see how everyone differs and whether their problem is clear, etc. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Elle. We're all clapping for you. Yeah. Great presentation. And we've included the links to WeFunder. And you'll notice the video on the WeFunder is like 2 minutes. You guys have 3 minutes. You actually have more time than she does, than her pitch in your final pitch today. So there's a lot you can say in a short time when you're really succinct and clear. So that's really helpful. But thank you so much, Elle.